So what I'm going to show you is not a complete formal lesson plan. It's basically a detailed outline for a HyFlex lesson. It includes the key assignments and technology tools that will be used across these three platforms. So in this lesson, students will be learning how to write a thesis statement for an argumentative essay. They'll also be learning how to do a short peer review of their classmates' thesis statements. So you see here, I have stated the outcomes. And on this table, I've included the activity, technology tool, time estimate, and how it's going to look across the platforms, on all three platforms. Now, I will say here on this chart, I started with the in-person class, but actually in my research, I found professors saying that it's more effective if you're planning for HyFlex to start with the asynchronous platform. So your online asynchronous platform is like your spine or your backbone, and then you would adjust your face-to-face platform and your synchronous online platform to complement your asynchronous online platform. And that made a lot of sense to me. I agree that seems like the most effective way to do it, but for the purposes of this lesson, I'm actually going to be starting with the face-to-face or seated part, because I think by explaining it this way, you're going to be better able to see how HyFlex works. But that is just something just to keep in mind if you're planning for a HyFlex course or HyFlex lesson. So back to the lesson. So the first activity is a mini lecture. The instructor is going to explain the difference between the different types of thesis statements using a PowerPoint presentation. So you see that with this activity, as you will see with most of the activities, is very similar across all three platforms. Your in-person students will get a live lecture. The synchronous online students will get a live stream lecture, and then the lecture will be posted to Blackboard for your asynchronous students. In the second activity, students will practice identifying strong, narrow, and broad thesis statements. And for this lesson, I'm doing this as a Google form because they're really easy to use. But you could also use other platforms like Poll Everywhere, or you could do a quick poll in Teams, or if you wanted to keep it really simple, you could just have students do like a Blackboard quiz. Again, you can see that this activity is pretty much the same across all platforms. One thing you might want to remember for your asynchronous students is to remind them to pause the video so they can take the poll, and they won't be able to hear you discussing the answers before they've actually had a chance to take the poll. So now for the next activity. Students will practice writing their own thesis statements. And the tool I have chosen here is just the Blackboard discussion tool. Again, there are other options like Padlet, Google Docs, Wikis. And as you can see, this assignment is, again, very similar, the same across all of the three modalities or platforms. Now that the students have written their thesis statements, it's time to get them ready to critique their peers' thesis statements. So you see the instructor is giving a pre-recorded mini lesson on how to do that. And again, it's basically the same in all three platforms. Next, students will do a peer review of their students' thesis statements. And the tool again is the Blackboard discussion tool. Again, it's very similar across all of your three platforms. Finally, you might want to do an informal optional discussion where students will be talking with you and talking with each other about their critiques and about their thesis statements. Again, very similar across the board. The difference here is that with the synchronous online students, if they want to talk in real time, they will have to do it via Teams. In this lesson, I have them just texting in the chat feature, but if you wanted to take it up a level, you could put them in channels and let them actually speak to each other via video. That just takes more time and planning. And then your asynchronous students will be able to discuss via the Blackboard discussion forum. So there you have it. I basically explained a simple HyFlex lesson, and I hope that it was helpful to you.